we kind of learned, okay, putting all the eggs in one basket for a company at that stage is kind of a tough investment.
If we're going to grow as a business, we've got to make more money. We've got to keep more money. We've got to be more profitable. All the while, the idea of like, we need to add value.
Understanding the problem, understanding the way that I can use creative solutions to help the business achieve really tangible business objectives.
On today's show, we talk about Kevin's transition from motion design to leading a very, very successful consulting company. We talk about the art of being a strategic partner, not just a videographer. And we also address client pain points and how to deliver results that get clients coming back for more. All that and for more on this episode. What is up, my friend? I am Ryan Corl from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast. This is the show where we talk about the business of video production. So if you're a video production business owner, you're a videographer, you're a filmmaker, commercial, corporate, this is the show for you. Promise you, you're in the right spot. Thank you for being here. You know, I've been running my production business actually almost 19 years ago is when I left my only like real salary job that I ever had at the college that I graduated from and started my video business. And man, have I messed up a lot. And it's been fun. I love learning from my mistakes, but I also like making fewer mistakes. So if you would like to learn faster, then keep hanging out here because this is a place to do it. Also, if you have not dived into AI, man, I've got a little special treat for you. I'm always looking for tools, technology, things that make my life easier and my business more profitable. And I love sharing those tools with you. And, this ChatGPT stuff and all of the things attached to AI, it's insane. And we might as well use the stuff, I think. While it's there, without taking out the heartbeat, the soul of who we are as business owners, as people, if it can help us win back some of our time and add more value to our clients, I highly recommend it. I spend a ton of time testing, integrating various AI tools. I keep testing, they keep coming out, they keep advancing. It's insane. But we're using it for our productions. We're using it to save time in planning for productions. I'm using it in this new brand that we just launched. All the marketing things that we're creating, I'm using it as like my sidekick. When I come up with an idea, I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And it gives me a couple of ideas and I'm like, ooh, I don't like that. But you know what? This one, I can riff on this one a little bit more. I've kind of had this like... I'm building this relationship with a robot. It's crazy. But I would love to share with you some of my favorite tools, some of the apps that we're using and ways that we are integrating AI into our workflows. If that would be interesting for you, if you'd like to save some of the massive time that I've been able to save, which essentially is like getting time back, which is kind of like getting money in my pocket whenever I'm able to do that, then go to studiosherpas.com/AI and you can download my best of list of the tools that we are using, best AI tools. Go grab that while you can, studiosherpas.com/AI, and let me know what you think of it. And if you have any tools, any favorites that you're using, please let me know. I would love to hear how you're using them and consider using them ourselves, for my team and the stuff that we're doing. So, okay, this is a super fun episode with Kevin. Seriously, so good. Let's get into it right now. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to another episode of the show. I'm your host, Ryan Corl. Today with me, I've got Kevin Rapp, who has spent over 15 years in the video production industry, starting as a motion designer, which we all should have much respect for people. I have. There's a special place in my heart and probably in heaven for people that can do motion design and think of things in like 3D ways, the Z-axis, like that's just amazing and beautiful. But now he is leading his own consulting company as the chief creative officer. He spent time both at studios and in-house helping Root Insurance grow from a 100-employee startup to an 1,800-person public company in 3 years. He also loves writing bios about himself in the third person. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kevin Rapp. What's up, Kevin?
I'll take a moment to let all of the studio applause come in. Thank you.
Wait. Oh,
please,
yeah.
no,
Here,
you don't. No,
here
you
it
don't
is.
need to do that. Please, thank you. Thanks for having me, Ryan. I'm excited to be here.
Our mutual friend Josh made the introduction. He's just like one of the nicest, kindest, most thoughtful people that probably we both know. And I think he hit the nail on the head with this introduction as we both were kind of like gushing about how much we appreciate and respect what we're doing in our respective places. So great job, Josh. And I'm so
A+ matchmaking. You are the best Yenta. Well done. Proud of you.
He's probably recommended the most people for this show, and he never fails to disappoint. So, Kevin, don't screw it up, okay? That's all.
Oh, I aim to be the person that breaks the trend.
Yeah, you did say scorched earth right before we hit record, so there is that. It's like no prisoners. We'll take no prisoners. Kevin,
yeah, we're going for it.
So let's just talk about your day to day. What does work look like for you? What are you doing? What do you want to do? What do you hate? What do you love? I'm just kidding. I'll stop. I'll ask my question and just let you talk. Please go.
I will start talking. So I about 15 months ago started my own consulting company. I work in branding and video content production for primarily tech companies, and the kind of thing that I've become known for is really helping startups build larger systems of content. So instead of just saying, hey, here's your one explainer video that you can throw on the YouTubes and the web and go from there to start your marketing journey with video, I help them kind of systemize that process so that they can start testing ideas, starting putting new different messages and different creative out into the world, and start iteratively building their brand based on the content that performs.
Really cool. Sounds really smart. So good job thinking through that. And when I think about startups, and especially in the tech space, a lot of like motion design, like here's how this software works, here's how this app works. I guess that's the same thing, software and apps. I think maybe not. What I'm hearing you say maybe is what you're doing, because I mean, we've done, $20,000-$30,000 explainer videos where it's a 90-second, like, here's the thing, but it does feel so pigeonholed. Like that's all they get. They just spend all that money and they get this one piece. Are you taking elements of that and creating like more like bite-sized content? Are you creating things in addition to that? Explain that a little bit more for me.
Absolutely. So, like you mentioned in my very well-written bio, I spent some time in-house at a tech startup called Root Insurance, and I made their very first brand video for them. And we invested a lot of money up front in creating this really cool video that I'm still really proud of. But ultimately, it didn't convert users the way we wanted to. It worked well as a brand awareness piece, but it didn't have the bite that we needed to convert users. And so from that process, we kind of learned, okay, putting all the eggs in one basket for a company at that stage is kind of a tough investment. So what we did right after that is we pivoted and we tried a bunch of different content. We just invested in a bunch of different animated videos where we tried different themes, different messages, different audiences. And from that, we found a couple of things that performed really, really well. And we got to learn a lot about what type of message performs best, what hook performs really well. How do we optimize that first 6 seconds of the video to really engage users to stick through to the end? And from this process, I learned, okay, just making one video isn't the best way to spend that investment. The best way is to maybe start with an overall system of content, starting with a concept that can be scalable, but deliver 10 different deliverables, right? Let them try a 16:9 aspect ratio and a 4:5 aspect ratio and see what performs better in a channel. Try maybe the same overall content, but change the hook of the first 6 seconds so that you have different themes that they can test in the first 6 seconds. it gives the client a lot more flexibility
Yeah.
as they're implementing this into their marketing inventory. And it gives them the opportunity to find the things that really work for them. And it's not a crazy huge more investment than just making one explainer video.
Right.
You're building the components. A lot of the investment is really in that overall creation of the assets at the beginning of the journey. And then making those iterations is actually a relatively small investment. So instead of one explainer video for 30 grand, they get 10 explainer videos or pieces of advertising content for like 40.
Yeah.
And so what's a better investment? An asset for $4,000 a piece or an asset for 30 grand a piece?
Dude, I love that. And it's super, I think, relevant and timely. Do you mind if I like bring up like a current client situation?
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Yeah,
What do you got?
Yesterday I hopped on a call. It was my second call with this client or potential client. She was actually, I filmed her wedding in like probably 2008. So she's been around for a long time and has been a big fan of our work for a long time and has yet to have one of the firms that she's worked at hire us. So we were on the call with her creative director and I presented our proposal. And we came up with a couple of different proposals. It's their 60th anniversary, the company's 60th anniversary. And, you know, they want to have a big video that kind of shares, here's what we've done the past 60 years. Here's where we're going, right? So we're going to spend 20 to 30% of the time just highlighting some of the cool things, great clients, have some clients come on and, you know, talk about how great of a partner they are, but then like, let's vision cast and kind of just share where we're going. And, you know, I'm telling them they want to do 9 interviews, and I'm like, okay. I'm like 9 interviews. Whew. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of interviews. This is great. Like, you're gonna have so much content beyond this. I'm just gonna call it a brand film. You're gonna use it to brag about 60 years, but then we're gonna be able to take that 60-year anniversary logo off, or take the very specific things that are about the anniversary and create some bite-sized pieces, or just re-edit the whole thing, do 2 versions of it, one that's like 60-year branded and one that's just like, here's what we're doing, kicking butt and taking names for the next 60 years, whatever. Gets down to like, I share the proposal number, and this is one of those clients that they're like, we don't know, and I'm like, okay, well, we should probably have the decision maker. I didn't get her, right? So it's like I'm sitting with the 2 women that are reporting this to. So I'm like, okay, so we're looking at probably $35,000. Like, this is, a couple of days of production. We're going to get you all of these things. I think it probably ended up being 3 days of production. And then I'm just trying to sell them on this idea of like, there's so much potential content here. I wasn't putting together any, I think maybe I included like 4 like 60-second like Instagram reel type videos, very simple, straightforward editing. So with this, very, very different from an explainer video, right? So there's not like probably, I don't know, can we create a bunch of hooks for this? How's this going to be implemented? Where's it going to be used? I mean, it's probably going to be more, at least this piece is going to be more a brand awareness piece, but they're a PR firm. So they're probably pretty creative in thinking like, hey, we could maybe create an ad and get people to, book a discovery call with us, even though the brand awareness piece, that's not the point of that thing. At least I don't think it is. So with that scenario, they're like, I don't know. We're not sure of the budget, but we've never spent like that much money on a video before. And so listening to everything that you just said, I was trying to position it as like, it's not just a video, even though it kind of like was one video that I was selling to them. What would you recommend in a situation like that? Again, knowing that it's not a motion graphics piece, it's like these are interviews, but there's probably a lot of potential. There's a lot of great stories, a lot of great sound bites, especially from the PR world, that they're going to have when speaking about this agency. So where did I drop the ball? What should I crawl back to them saying like, wait, I got one more idea?
So the way that I typically like to position it is, imagine it's meal prep. Okay. So let's say every week you are making your meals from scratch every week, and you make one thing for dinner one night, one thing for dinner the next night, one thing for dinner the next night. It always takes longer and costs more if you buy all of those ingredients from scratch and if you custom make everything. But if you say, buy your peppers, your onions, your mushrooms, and you cut all that stuff up on Sunday, all of a sudden you can make fajitas for dinner one night. You can make tacos for dinner the next night. You can make a stir fry. You can make an omelet. There are all these things that you can do and be so much more efficient with your time and your money because you did the work up front to have your ingredients prepped. And the same thing is true of creative. And the real investment is in making the content from the beginning, right? The real investment is up front. For live action video, that's in the production. That's where a large bulk of your investment goes in. Same thing with design and animation. That initial creation of all those designs, those initial build of the elements, that takes the most time and money investment. But if you're really smart about the way you plan, you can shoot enough content that is optimized for not just one video deliverable, but for dozens. And if you are really smart about the way you plan, you get so much more value out of the investment because you're talking about building a library, an inventory of assets that you can then repurpose in a lot of different ways. It just takes proper planning and it takes smart thinking to think in a systems way to deliver the most amount of value. So yes, it is a big investment, but it's a much better investment because you're not sinking all of that effort into one thing. You're sinking all of that effort into something that gives you as a business more opportunity because you're not just relying on this one asset to do all the work. You're not relying on it to convey all of the messages because that's usually what happens is you stuff too many messages into one thing and it doesn't work. You can then create a bunch of different assets that each have different messages that are each going to be beneficial in telling the part of the story that you need that one asset to tell.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, like batch recording, podcasts. That's what I'm doing today. Today's my day because I realized it's probably 6 months ago I started doing this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much better. I do love the surprise podcast appearance, like in the middle of the week, but to be able to knock out the ones that I have to do in one day, once per month, I'm like, wow, like this is so much more efficient. And then I'm able to do all my intros and outros in one setting instead of randomly. So I think that clients can understand that. And I love the idea.
And if they don't understand that analogy, put it in dollars and cents, right? Would you rather spend 20 grand on one asset that may or may not work?
Yeah.
Or do you want to hedge your bets? Do you want to hedge your bets and spend 4 grand a pop or 3 grand a pop or whatever, however you can efficiently work it to get 10 different assets? Mm-hmm. And then you have a much likelier chance of getting something that's going to perform.
Yeah.
Because literally all content, all advertising is a gamble. We cannot guarantee that anything is going to work. And your best option for finding something that performs is creating more inventory and essentially stacking the deck when you gamble. You put more options out there so that you have more opportunities to win.
Yeah. That's so good, man. It's like, I mean, the same thing. I always use the analogy of like making t-shirts. I made t-shirts in college with a friend of mine. And if you just did one t-shirt, that first t-shirt is going to cost you like $250 or something. You got the screen, you got the prep, the design, all those things. But then your next one, you're at $125 a t-shirt. And then you do 12 shirts or 24 or whatever. It's like, oh, and then you get down to like $9 or $10 a shirt. This is reasonable. But you got to do a certain amount before it actually, pays for itself. So that same idea of what you're sharing here is like, you're going to do all this work anyway up front. What's a little bit more work that's going to get you a lot more? That's how I want to start selling this stuff. We've got these like social media packages and these ideas on how we can create additional content, but to bundle it together on something like a brand film, instead of just telling the client yesterday, like, well, hey, and you can add, it's not going to cost that much more if you want to get like a bunch of social reels. Really, I should say, hey, your brand film is $35,000 and you're getting one video and you're going to get all the footage. You can do whatever you want with it. But then for $42,000, $45,000, we're going to give you 30 pieces of content. and we're going to give you 2 versions of the brand film. We're going to, and we could like literally, all we're doing is like, okay, instead of like this opener, let's do this opener. Let's do a 5-minute and a 2-minute, like whatever the things are on our end that we can make more streamlined, because we know what the efficiencies are. So instead of trying to get them on the back end to come back to get those additional edits, and, on the front end say like, yeah, it's a big investment, 60 years, a long time. But hey, for only, whatever X more, you're going to get like this much more. That seems like a no-brainer to start offering that.
100%, because this is the way that content has been trending for at least 15 years.
Yeah.
Right. We have been seeing brands need more content for smaller budgets, right? The days of the $1 million broadcast commercials are not really there anymore. I mean, there's some brands that are still willing to invest that kind of money into broadcast and big campaigns, but it's much fewer and farther between. And a lot of that work is not trickling down to the average video production team.
Yeah.
I've just been seeing this trend consistently over years where brands are now getting more active on social. They are getting more active on performance media channels like Google and Facebook. They're seeing value in YouTube Shorts or TikTok. So it's volume of content.
Yeah.
Is the name of the game for most brands. And the only way that I know how to combat that problem while still maintaining quality is to develop systems, to develop inventories of content, to have high quality assets at the ready that aren't just made to execute one storyboard, but are there to give you as much opportunity to play and as much opportunity to create great content at scale as possible.
Yeah, I love that. Like when you talk about systems, like what does that actually look like? Like what kind of infrastructure are you building? What does the rollout look like? All that.
So when I was in-house at Root, the thing that I started with is let's just throw spaghetti at the walls and see what sticks. So we went and created a bunch of different assets. We created a bunch of different animated videos from scratch and tried a bunch of different things. So we had like 15 different animated videos that we created, and it was just testing style because we were still a pretty new and nimble brand. Yeah. So there was still a lot of flexibility in who the brand was, who it was talking to, what were our key messages that were resonating with people. And as we found the things that were working, we started to say, okay, let's invest a little bit more in refining the things that are working. So we found that 3D animation, for example, was something that really kind of popped. A lot of tech companies were doing like noodly arm cartoon characters. And so something that was 3D and a little bit more polished tended to stand out for us. So what we did is we invested in creating a bunch of 3D assets. And in our first year of this plan, we created over 900 3D illustrations. And we created these assets not just for the brand to use on the web, but we also created them so that they were easily manipulatable and could be thrown into animation really quickly. Because for a car insurance company, a huge thing that we needed was cars. And cars are hard to draw. So when you're making a 2D illustration of a car, anytime you need a different angle, it takes a lot of effort. But for a 3D asset, it was just move the camera and hit the render button, right? So when you think, oh, 3D is so hard, it's so expensive, it takes so much time and effort, like for us, it actually saved us time and money because we were building a system for the long haul of the brand. And then we kind of took that same philosophy and applied that to other aspects of the brand. So we went and did a 5-day lifestyle shoot where we captured as much content as we could, where we captured driving footage. We captured general lifestyle footage of our customers. We captured portraits. We captured interactions with the app, all sorts of things, so that we had all sorts of content that wasn't just, okay, this executes this one spot, but gives us as much flexibility and as many ingredients as possible so that we can make a wide variety of content.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it was about, okay, let's build a graphics package. Let's build all of these motion design templates for text animations and all sorts of stuff. And then we started kind of honing in on what are some territories that we want to explore, what are some themes for the brand that would make really strong ads, what would make some really great brand awareness, what would be a good explainer of the app, what would be a good app walkthrough, things like that, things that would be evergreen content that we can make and just use those resources to help us build content at scale. And now when applying that to my own business, now where I'm working for clients, the way that I approach that is when a client comes to me and says, hey, we need an explainer video, I try to understand what their business goals are. And if their business goals are, we're trying to get a lot of retention, if their goals are that they're trying to create customer acquisition when they don't have a lot of brand awareness, there's a lot of opportunity for them. So I say, okay, actually one explainer video isn't what you need right now. You need different video assets for different stages of the funnel. You need something that will create brand awareness. You need something that will be a consideration piece that will help them understand who you are and what makes you unique. And then you need a conversion piece that will really entice them with your strongest, most compelling offer to make them want to sign up or download the app or whatever. And so I start creating those systems of content. It's probably animation at that point for the brand. So creating those motion design templates and illustration assets that can help them have as much content as possible for a relatively minimal investment.
I love that. For us, hopefully we heard what you just said there, where you asked questions, kind of dug in, tried to understand what the client thought that they needed. So here's an explainer video that we need. This is, and then by your expertise, you're being in this field for long enough to realize, like, well, yeah, you do need that, but you also need, or instead of that, what you actually need. So guiding the client, that whole process there. I mean, you go from one explainer video to 3 videos plus like additional assets and just kind of like all of the planning. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just like at least tripled, maybe quadrupled the sale because you're curious.
Absolutely. And it's not about tripling the sale for me. It's about tripling the value for them. Totally. Right? It's about understanding that sometimes the brief is wrong.
Yeah.
The client has an understanding of what they want to do, but they don't always have the greatest expertise on what will perform for their brand. So sometimes the thing of putting a 90-second explainer video is something that might have worked 5 years ago, but isn't as optimized for the channels of today.
Yeah.
And so as a person who has lived through this experience and has seen what performs really well, I feel like it's my responsibility to help guide them on not executing the tactics that they really want to accomplish or what they think is going to help them perform, but to really understand what their problem is and help them solve it. I'm not an order taker. I'm somebody who is here to help this business solve their problems.
Yeah. And the difference between those two things is somebody that is going to feast or famine, probably be hungry a lot more than they want to be, versus somebody that's like, like I can make a really good business out of helping with strategic, well-informed, trying to solve problems versus just like pushing some buttons, zoom in here, cut there. But here's why. Like, what's the ultimate goal? A year from now, this video or these videos are on your site or on social. What are they doing? How are they helping your business? What do you actually need? What is the biggest need that your agency or your company has? What's working right now? What's not? What videos have you done in the past? What was good about them? What wasn't good? Like asking and trying to understand those things. I mean, at the end of the day, a few questions could open the door to a lot more possibility. And to your point, yes. I mean, one thing, it's like, if we're going to grow as a business, we've got to charge more money, or we've got to make more money. We've got to keep more money. We've got to be more profitable.
Absolutely.
And all the while with the idea of like, we need to add value. If we're not adding value for our clients, then it's like, that's not fun. That's not fun for the majority of us that really want to be helpful and that want to build a business on the value that we bring, not just like, somehow I duped them into, signing this $50,000 deal. This is amazing. I've arrived.
Yeah. Just upselling for the point of upselling isn't actually something that's going to bring you long-term sustainability, right? Upselling because you have the solution that is going to actually help them reach their long-term goals. That's something that brings both you value and the client value. And something that you're talking about in here that I think is really challenging for a lot of video people in particular is that video creators are typically brought on in the execution phase of the project. Right? So they don't often get to be a part of the strategy portion. Usually when I was on just the video production side of things before I went in-house, I would only know something was successful if the client came back. That was my only measurement of success. I never heard, it increased our conversions by X%. We saw our market share grow here. We saw brand awareness grow by X%. We didn't get any of those metrics. We only got, it played. And that's like it. That's it. Like, great. I'm glad it wasn't like a Mission Impossible situation where the message exploded mid video. I'm very glad to hear that. Whew. The thing that's great about video people is that we do understand the larger picture. We are people who generally understand how image and sound work together. We understand how lots of different pieces on set come together in an edit. Like, we are generally folks who understand a larger picture and make a lot of decisions of disparate elements that add up to a larger piece. And that makes us really strategic people. I've found a lot of the great brand directors that I've worked with are people who have an expertise in video because they understand how small decisions add up to a larger story and a larger strategy.
Yeah.
So be confident in knowing, as a creator of video, as a person who has to make a lot of decisions that make up a much larger story, that you have a good sense of what works and what doesn't. And recognize that your expertise has a lot of power and holds a lot of weight. So if a brief comes by your desk that you look at and it doesn't pass the sniff test, if you look at it and go, I don't see how this awareness-driven video, a brand video that's really, really high-level and awareness-driven, is going to actually accomplish conversions, which is what you say you want. Maybe you need something that's a little bit more value-packed rather than something that's more high-level and brand awareness-y, because talking about your values isn't the type of thing that immediately gets you more conversions. It's the thing that raises more awareness of who you are. So be willing to push back on the client. Be willing to say, I think that this is a better option for the business objectives that you're trying to achieve because of my expertise in this business and knowing how video plays with customers.
Yep. Yeah, I love that too. And I would also encourage our listener to say, to even start, for me, I'll start a sentence like that. In my opinion, or in my experience, right? Not like you should do this, but in my experience, you know, doing multiple, whatever, I've seen it work. It's worked for other clients of ours. Would you be open to considering an option like this? It's just easier.
And even dig in and ask them questions about, like, okay, how are you actually going to be implementing this? How is this video going to be played? What are the exact channels that you're going to be implementing it? How are you going to be measuring it? Are you going to be testing this creative against other creative that is in your inventory? How are you going to be testing it? How are you going to be measuring it? Because those questions and the answers to those questions will help lead you down a path of truly understanding the context of the way the client is using the work and measuring the work. And that can give you the opportunity to say, well, based on those variables, here are the things that we think you can accomplish.
Yep.
And here are the best practices that will set this video up for success to achieve the metrics that you want it to achieve.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. It's like a doctor diagnosing a patient before she's asked enough questions, right? It's like, oh yeah, take two of these and we'll see you in the morning. It's like, wait.
That's exactly what it is. Here's some ibuprofen. The end.
It's like, I haven't slept for 4 days. So
ibuprofen.
I would say
it'll get it.
Right. There's a lot of people that would say, okay, I'm not confident enough to make suggestion or to push back on a client. Like I want the work. I need the work. So that's real. I've been in that spot real. And I know how, the idea of pushing back might come across like, oh gosh, like I want to win this work. So I'll just do whatever they say. I think what you're suggesting, there's a lot of power in this, but also so many of us come into a project too late. The plan has already been made.
100%.
The team has already decided like this is the way that we need to go. Now we just find the vendor that can, fulfill our vision. And that's right. It's unless they've done tons of video and have had a lot of success, that's not the way to do it. They shouldn't be doing it like that. So
they shouldn't, but they do.
But they do. In your experience, for a video production company business owner that is coming in too late, maybe this is a twofold question. What do you recommend to somebody that says, I want to be a part of the conversation earlier? I want to have some influence. I want to have a seat at the table. I want to be seen as an expert and not just have to tell them, okay, you called me because you're looking for somebody that can execute on this, but I'm also an expert. Do you believe me? What do you recommend for the video business owner that's in that place?
Yeah, absolutely. So that just comes with trust, right? Basically what you're asking for is the opportunity to be a trusted, valuable advisor that can help them make the right choices. And that really only comes when you have trust and credibility with the client. Once they value the work that you do, once they see that you're an expert in your field, that is when they will say, okay, great. I see why this person's strategy is going to be successful for me, and I want to partner with them. And there are a couple of ways that you can go about that. One is that you do a project for them where you do just execute.
Yeah.
And you prove yourself to be reliable. You prove yourself to be a good partner, and you prove yourself to be somebody who can execute the ask that they want. That's a great way to go about it. That is something that gets your foot in the door and leads you to the opportunity where you can be in a more strategic position because you've built that trust and credibility. The other way is to demonstrate that capability through either past work, through social media, through your website, through case studies, basically finding ways to prove your authority and credibility in a larger brand sense rather than just trying to say, hey, trust me, believe me, right? When you can show people, here's something that I did, here is the results that it had for the business, and here's the success that I've seen by taking this kind of strategic approach, you position yourself as a strategic expert that they can rely on. So it's really all about building that trust and credibility, and some of that can come through experience, or some of that can come through essentially building a trusted and authoritative brand.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why, the longer you can be in business, the more, confidence, the more trust you're going to build, the more, referrals, the better testimonials you get. So as like annoying as it might sound, it's like, you got to stick with it. You got to be head down and keep showing up. And it's not going to be, in most cases, for most of us, you're not going to be an overnight success. Maybe like for me, I was an overnight success in about 10 years.
Yep.
Took a while.
Yep.
but it's
crushing it overnight after 15 years.
Yeah. I said 10. I probably really meant closer to like 20. I did have a conversation with somebody just the other day, and as you're talking about the strategic element that we can bring, and this is where your confidence will grow. It's only going to grow with time. You got to get more reps. You got to keep putting yourself out there. You got to just assume you're in the best spot that you can be. Yes, you want to be in a better spot, a more experienced spot in the future, but for right here, right now, you're showing up for this client as good as you can, as good as you know how. This idea of being a strategic partner versus just an order taker versus just the videographer, but as somebody that wants to understand their business and their pain points, wants to understand their goals, and wants to come alongside them to really help deliver something that they're going to be proud of, but that they're also going to come back and say, we need more because this work, you really understood. We were able to articulate our problem. You were able to turn that into a video that we needed. What this conversation I had the other day was, this guy said, and he's just kind of, I think he's super smart, really, really smart. I respect this guy a ton, and I pay him a lot of money every month to guide me. He said, if you're not trying to, or if you're not moving toward becoming a guide or a strategic partner for your clients, in 1 year, it's his like rough estimate, with AI and with technology, the button pushing is getting a lot easier for people that aren't video people to like do what we do. So, not to scare anybody or to, the sky is falling down, but I mean, already we're feeling some of the repercussions of what AI can do. Sure. And people are like, hey, maybe we could just do this in office. So I think we really need to start flexing that strategic muscle in the things that you're saying, so that we can, they can, our clients can be the expert in their thing, and we can be the strategic storytellers or the strategic video producers, so that they can hire us. We walk alongside them, give them what they need, and maybe the tools are super easy. So we have to think more creatively how we're charging, but maybe we're charging more for consulting than we are for post-production or something like that. But the rules of the game are changing. And I think this idea around strategy and becoming, how do we become a strategist or a better strategist, I think is genius.
A lot to unpack there. I think this person is more bullish on AI than I am. I have many qualifiers about AI. There's a lot that I understand why people are using it and the context in which they're using it. But as a person who has had a lifetime of painting out logos in plenty of things, I understand that licensing is a very important and critical aspect of all commercial art, and the legal liability of using AI, there's still a lot to be determined there. So I'm a little less bullish on AI than others, just from a pure, I think there's a lot of moral, ethical, and legal concerns to be determined about AI before I think there's going to be the ability to use it in a widespread capacity.
Yeah.
That's one thing. The other thing for me is when positioning yourself as a more strategic partner, something AI can't do is figure out how to deliver value to a business. That is something that requires unique human creativity. And when I was in-house, for example, I created over 250 video deliverables a year at an average cost of $1,500 a pop. So doing the math on what the average cost of that work should have been, my math is conservatively that it should have been around $10K per pop. So when I do the math of all of the deliverables that I created for them, because I also created illustrations and photography and audio on top of those videos, I was saving the business around $5 million a year in production cost alone. So that is what I mean when I'm talking about contributing tangible value to a business. Yeah. And that came from systems thinking. That came from building creative in a systems-oriented way that helped us find some of our highest performing assets of all time. So saving the company $5 million a year, plus helping them test a lot of different creative to find the formulas for success, which led us to some of our greatest assets that acquired the most customers out of any ads we ever ran. That's tangible value. That is value to a business that is undeniable and doesn't come from just taking orders and just saying, here's the way we want this ad, right? It comes from understanding the problem, understanding the way that I can use creative solutions to help the business achieve really tangible business objectives. So that's what I mean when I think about strategy. I think about, what is this business trying to achieve? How can I contribute significant value to this business in ways that the CEO cares about, not in the ways that our creative leads care about, because, the creative is important, but it's not as important as selling policies. It's not something as important as conversion. It's not as important as raising our brand awareness. Those are the things that really, really, truly matter. And if I still brought just a creative executional mindset to the way that I approached the work, I wasn't going to really contribute as much value to the business as I really possibly could.
Oh man, so good. Kevin, I feel like we barely scratched the surface with my questions that I have over here. If you guys are not following Kevin on LinkedIn, you must. This is kind of what I was doting on him before we started the show. Like, his posts are so good, like just thought-provoking, well-written, really good copywriter, and even in some cases, like visually, like I'm like, oh, this is actually a nice looking LinkedIn. How is this a nice looking LinkedIn? How do you do that? So follow Kevin. Where else can people follow along with the stuff that you've got going on, Kevin?
Yeah, so I am very much an old man, and so LinkedIn is my primary spot that you can find me, where I scream into my own personal little corner of the internet. But you can also see my website, kevin-rapp.com. But LinkedIn is the primary space where I'm really carving out a lot of this message. And I do talk a lot about content systems. I talk a lot about how creatives can optimize their work and grow in their career, and also how they can create more effective marketing, both for themselves and for the clients that they work for. So yeah, that's my primary space of the internet.
I love it. This has been so good, man. I love your perspective. We have to do this again because, like I said,
would love to.
There's still a lot over here. Marketing funnel, optimizing creative to business objective, and that we're barely even scratching the surface. So
yeah,
how do you want to leave us today? Again.
Yes,
let's do it again. Anything I didn't ask that you're like, oh my gosh, dude, you totally botched this interview, or this is my charge for all of the people that listen to the show?
No, man, I think you covered a lot of the fun stuff. This has been a really fun conversation, and I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for the work that you're doing. Keep it up, because it's inspiring. It's good. And I like it. I want to be more like Kevin, especially when it comes to LinkedIn. A couple of old guys hanging out on LinkedIn together,
Okay. So here's my thing. LinkedIn might actually be like kind of cool. No, like maybe ish, because
you're definitely old, because you're saying this right now.
Oh yeah, I'm so old. And so it's cool-ish because it's deeply uncool. And
yes,
so it's kind of this really interesting frontier space.
Yep.
Where somebody who has a unique and interesting perspective can actually really stand out and has a lot of opportunity to build an interesting brand for themselves, because there is a giant, vast system of content that is very bland and corporate-y. And so when you say like, hey, you have some cool visuals on there, it's like that's a very intentional choice for me to build a brand that isn't stodgy, has some fun perspectives, and occasionally like I'm mildly trolling because I just like to have a personality that doesn't belong on LinkedIn and is still there.
I love it. That's probably why I like it so much. Yes, very good. Awesome, my friend. This was great. Thank you again. Appreciate your time and your perspective.
Likewise, man. Thank you. It's been really, really fun.
All right, my friend, don't forget, you can grab links, all the things to the show note, like to the things that we talked about in the show in the side of the show notes. I can do this. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, leave me a comment. Let me know, what's your biggest takeaway? Is there an action step, something that you're going to do because of what you heard Kevin and I talk about? Would love to hear from you. If you think this episode is great, grab a screenshot of it and share it with someone you think could get some value out of it. Would be grateful for you doing something like that. You can find me on the socials. You can reach out to me, Ryan@studiosherpas.com. If you got any thoughts for me, other guests or topics that we should talk about. And don't forget, super duper important, if you haven't downloaded the AI guide, the PDF that has some of my favorite AI tools, you can do that by going to studiosherpas.com/AI. Right now is the best time to start plugging in that URL because this episode is just about to be over. studiosherpas.com/AI. Grab it, and that's it for now. You're amazing. You got this. We can do this. We can build our businesses, be profitable, make great stuff, make a positive impact in the world, and I think we can do it together, and we're better together. So glad you're here, glad you're with me, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.